20 years. Say it is 4 hours a week, which is conservative, and I will show you the arithmetic in a moment. That is roughly 4,000 hours of your life, and it did not go on anything you would recognize as a mistake. It went on being reachable, on replies that could have waited until morning, on explaining things a second time to people who had understood you the first time, on defending positions you had already won 3 days after you won them, to somebody who was simply checking whether you would move. None of it was dramatic. Nobody took anything from you. There is no villain in this, and there never was. And that is exactly why you have never once added it up. 4 weeks ago, this arc started with tempo debt, which is the interest you pay forever on having once answered too quickly. Then the tell ladder, the 6 signals you send. In the 4 seconds before you know, you are sending anything. Then the second answer, the message you send, after nobody asked, where every position you have ever surrendered was actually lost. And last week, the 72 hours, the 3 waves that arrive after you say no, and the third one that takes almost everybody. 4 leaks, and you have been paying all 4 of them at once for about 2 decades, without ever once seeing an invoice. So this episode is different from the other 4, and I want to be honest about that up front. There is no move in this one, no rule, no script, no thing to do on Tuesday. Every other video in this arc handed you something you could run, and this one does not, because the last thing standing between you and any of it is not a technique. It is that you have never priced the problem, and a man does not change a habit he has never costed. So today we add it up, 4 bills, in order, each one heavier than the last, and then a 5th one which is not on the list and which is larger than the 4 combined. That is the claim, and I want to state it plainly so you can hold me to it. The total is not the sum. It is bigger than the sum, and the reason it is bigger only becomes visible when you stop looking at the 4 separately, which is what nobody has ever done for you, including you. And I will tell you the cost of watching this. Somewhere around the 4th bill, you are going to think about a specific thing you did not do. Not a mistake you made, something you never started. That is the part men close the video on, and I would ask you to stay through it, because the second half of this is about what the money buys once you stop spending it, and that half is not bleak at all. There is also a man I want to show you before the end. Around 1700 years ago, he held more power than almost anybody who has ever lived. Then on a specific day, at a specific place, he handed all of it over and walked away, and lived another 6 years. And when they came to ask him to take it back, he said something about vegetables that has outlasted every edict he ever issued. Machiavelli wrote a chapter about the princes of Italy who lost their states, and he was blunt about the cause. They blamed fortune. He said the fault was theirs, and specifically that in quiet times they never once thought about change, so that when the weather turned, they thought about running rather than about defending. The quiet times are the whole point of that passage, not the crisis. It's when nothing is happening and everything is fine, and there is no reason to look at anything, which are the year in which every position is actually decided. You have been in your quiet times for about 2 decades. 3 words in the comments before we start. I stop paying. Type it now, and then come back to it at the end, because it will mean something different by then. And I would like you to feel the difference. Here is the thing nobody told you across the last 4 weeks, and it is the reason the total is bigger than the sum. The 4 are not 4 problems, they are one circuit, and each one funds the next. Follow it around. Answering fast is the first leak, and speed is itself the loudest signal on the tell ladder. So the tempo debt makes you more legible automatically without you doing anything else wrong. Being legible means you can see people reading you, and seeing yourself read is unbearable. So you clarify, which is the second answer. The second answer teaches everybody that your positions are drafts rather than decisions. And a position that reads as a draft is exactly the position worth running 3 waves against, which is the 72 hours. And then the loop closes, and this is the part that matters. Surviving 3 waves costs you time you did not have, because you were already behind. And being behind is what makes a man answer fast in the first place. It is a circle, and you have been going round it several times a week for 20 years. And notice that no single step in that circle is unreasonable. Every one of them is the obvious, decent, sensible thing to do in the moment it happens. That is what makes it a circuit, rather than a bad habit. A bad habit has a moment where you know you are doing something foolish. This has no such moment anywhere in it, which is precisely why it has run untouched for 2 decades. Which is why every attempt you have made to fix one of these has failed inside a month. You were treating a circuit as a list. You picked the one that embarrassed you most. You worked on it in isolation, and the other 3 kept feeding it faster than you could drain it. That is not a discipline problem, and it never was. You were bailing out a boat with the tap running, and here is the turn, and it is the only genuinely encouraging thing in this video, so I am putting it early where you can use it. A circuit runs in both directions. If each leak funds the next, then reducing any one of them reduces the pressure on the other 3, automatically, without you working on them at all. Answer slower and you become less legible, which means less to clarify, which means fewer drafts to test, which means fewer waves, which gives you back time, which makes it easier to answer slower. You do not have to fix 4 things. You have never had to fix 4 things. You have to pick one and take enough load off it that the circle starts turning the other way, and then the system does most of the remaining work while you go about your life. Hold that, because everything after this is going to sound expensive, and it is also almost entirely reversible by one man making one change in one place. Bill 1, your hours, so the first bill, and it is the lightest, which is why we start here. The bill for your hours. Do the arithmetic, honestly. The messages answered at night that could have waited. The 4 rewrites of a note that needed 1. The 40 minutes lost to a thread you should have closed by not replying. Call it 4 hours a week, and I think for most of you that is generous in the wrong direction. 4 hours a week is roughly 200 hours a year, and over 20 years, that is 4,000 hours. I want to convert that figure, because raw hours do not land. 4,000 hours is 2 full working years, not 2 years of evenings, 2 years of full-time work, handed over in fragments small enough that not one of them was ever worth objecting to. And notice where those hours actually went, because it was not to the work. Almost none of it produced anything. It went to the management of other people's comfort with you, in 15-minute pieces over 2 decades. That is the light one. Keep it in mind, because every bill after this is heavier, and none of them can be measured in hours at all. I own the hours, 1 word before the second bill. Did you actually run one of the 4 this month? Not intend to. Run it, yes or no, and that is the whole comment. I would rather have an honest thread of no's than a polite one of yeses. Bill 2, you're standing. The second bill, you're standing. This one has no unit, which is why nobody ever bills for it, and it is considerably larger than the first. Being readable does not cost you respect exactly. People are usually fond of a legible man. What it costs is that you are handled rather than consulted. Requests arrive at you pre-shaped, because everybody learned years ago which framing produces which response from you, and they select accordingly, without malice, the way you would choose a tool. The half-formed version of things comes to you, because pushing on you finishes the thinking for free. And the specific, expensive form of it is this. You are not in the room where things are decided about you, and the reason you are not in that room is not politics. It is that a man whose reaction is predictable does not need to be present for the decision. They already know what you will say. Your presence adds nothing to the meeting, so over years you are quietly not invited. And nobody ever makes that decision consciously enough to tell you about it. Jerry spent 19 years at the same firm and was, by common agreement, the person who understood the operation best. He was also the most reachable man in the building. And over those 19 years, the two facts merged into one reputation, which was that Jerry could be relied on. When a restructure came and a new layer of management was created above him, he was not passed over in a meeting. There was no meeting. The people making the decision already knew what Jerry would say about every option on the table. They had been predicting him accurately for about a decade, and a man who can be predicted does not need to be in the room to be counted. He found out on a Tuesday, from an email addressed to everybody. That is what the tell ladder actually cost, not dignity in the moment. 20 years of decisions made accurately about you, in your absence, by people who did not need you there because you were already legible enough to model. I am hard to read. Bill 3. Your positions, the third bill. Your positions, and this is where it starts to hurt. Go back through your working life and find the positions you actually held. Not the ones you took, the ones that survived. For most men the list is startlingly short, and the ones that are missing did not fall in arguments. They dissolved. Here is how the accounting works on this one. Every position you surrendered voluntarily, in a second answer nobody asked for, or in the third wave of a 72-hour cycle, did not just cost you that outcome. It taught the room a rule about you, and the rule outlived the incident by years. One folded line on a Thursday in a year you can barely remember is still being priced into how people approach you now, and neither you nor they could tell you which Thursday it was. That is the compound part. The outcome was rented, the rule was permanent, and I want to name what it means concretely, because vagueness is how this stays comfortable. It means that some proportion of the things you are currently expected to do, you are expected to do because of a decision you made in your early 30s, to be agreeable in a moment that seemed to matter very little at the time. Give me a number, and this one is the hardest of the three I have asked for. How many years have you been running this? Not how old you are. How long you have been the man who answers fast. 15, 22, 8. Just the number. And after it. I want to see the shape of that distribution more than almost anything else I have asked you for. Now stop for 30 seconds and actually cost one of these, because the second half will not land as anything but words otherwise. Pick one leak, just one. Estimate the hours it takes from you in a normal week, honestly, and then multiply it by 50, and then multiply that by the number you just put in the comments. Do not round it down. Men round this number down every time, and the rounding is itself one of the 4 leaks operating on the arithmetic. And settle something for me, because it divides people hard, and I want the argument running underneath this video. Can a man actually change how he operates after 20 years of the same pattern, or does he simply get better at describing it? Half of you have watched somebody do it, and half of you have watched somebody talk about doing it for a decade. Take a side, change, or describe. Now the man, because it is time. Around 1700 years ago, the Roman Empire was in a state that had been killing emperors at a remarkable rate. The previous 50 years had produced a long line of men who took power and were murdered inside a few years, sometimes inside a few months, and the job had become something closer to a sentence than a prize. A soldier named Diocletian took it in the middle of that, and then did something none of his predecessors had managed. He held it for 20 years, And rather than simply surviving, he rebuilt the thing structurally. He divided the empire's administration so that no single man had to hold all of it. He put a second senior ruler alongside him and 2 juniors beneath them, so that power had joints in it, rather than being one enormous weight resting on one set of shoulders. And then, on the 1st of May, at a spot outside the city where he had been proclaimed 20 years earlier, in front of the assembled army, he took off the purple and handed it over. Voluntarily, not defeated, not dying, not deposed, he simply stopped, walked down and went home, which no Roman emperor had ever done in that manner, and lived comfortably afterwards. He went to a palace he had built for himself on the Dalmatian coast, at a place we now call Split, and he grew vegetables for about 6 years. And here is the part that has outlasted everything else about him. A few years after he left, the system he had built began to come apart, and his former colleagues came to him and pressed him to take it back. They needed him. It was falling over. There was every argument available, and they made all of them. The reply that comes down to us reaches us through a later writer, so I will paraphrase rather than quote it, and I would rather you check it than take my wording. The substance was that if they could see the cabbages he had grown with his own hands, they would not ask him to trade them for power again. I want to be precise about why that is the right story for this episode, because it is not a story about retiring. Diocletian is not saying that power is worthless. He spent 20 years acquiring and exercising it more successfully than almost anyone in that century. He is saying something narrower and far more useful. He had seen the full price of it, laid out against what it actually bought. And having seen the total once, he could not unsee it, and no argument they brought could make the arithmetic work again. He had done what nobody in this video has done yet. He had added it up, Bill 4, your direction, which brings us to the 4th bill, the heaviest of the 4, and the one I warned you about at the start. The bill for your direction. Every one of the first 3 bills is paid in a currency you can name. Hours, standing, positions. This one is paid in things that never existed, which is why it never appears on any statement. Think about what actually requires an uninterrupted stretch of your own attention. Not 4 hours. A long run of weeks where your head is genuinely your own, where nobody has a claim on the next 2 evenings, where a difficult thing can be picked up on Monday and still be alive on Friday. Every substantial thing a man builds outside his job requires that, and almost nothing else does. Now count how many such stretches you have had in 20 years. A man whose calendar is owned by other people does not fail at his ambitions. He never begins them. And there is a very important difference, because failure leaves evidence, and never beginning leaves nothing at all. There is no moment you can point to. There is just a version of your life that did not happen, and no memory of the day it was cancelled, because it was never cancelled. It was outbid, in 15-minute increments, by 4,000 small requests that each seemed reasonable in isolation. And it is worth being precise about the mechanism, because this is the bill men misdiagnose most often. You did not lack ambition, and you did not lack ability, and in most cases you did not even lack time in the raw sense. What you lacked was continuity. 2 free evenings in a week are not the same asset as 2 free evenings that connect to a third. Difficult work does not resume, it restarts, and a man who restarts from cold every time will eventually stop picking the thing up at all. That is not a failure of will. It is what happens to any project that is only ever handled in fragments. The men in the pack who feel this one most sharply are usually the most capable ones in the room, which is the cruelty of it. Competence generates demand. Demand fragments the calendar, and the fragmentation costs exactly the thing that competence was supposed to buy. That is the thing you thought of a minute ago. I said you would. and I would rather name it than pretend I did not know. The fifth bill, the compound. And now the fifth one, which is not on the list, and which is larger than the four together. You became a man who is managed, not weak, not disrespected managed, which is a specific and much stranger thing. The people around you are on the whole fond of you. They do not think less of you. They simply root around your reactions, the way water roots around a rock, and they have done it for so long that the routing is invisible to everybody, including them. And here is what makes it the largest bill. You cannot see the alternative version. A man who loses an argument knows what he lost. A man who is managed has no comparison available to him, because the version of his life where he was not managed does not exist anywhere he can look at it. He cannot grieve it accurately. He can only feel, sometimes on a Sunday, a vague sense that something is smaller than it should be, and then get up and go to work on Monday and pay the 4 bills again. That is why nobody ever adds this up, not because the arithmetic is hard, because the answer is invisible by construction. I do not fund the loop. Name 1 to 4, hours standing, positions, direction. Which single bill are you going to stop paying? And I mean the one you are actually going to stop paying rather than the one that sounds most impressive. 1 digit. That is the whole comment. So, what does it buy once you stop? The first thing is the obvious one, and it is the least interesting. You get the hours back, not all of them, and not immediately, but a meaningful fraction of 4 hours a week returns inside about 2 months, and it comes back in the useful shape, which is evenings that are actually yours, rather than evenings that are technically free, but mentally still at work. The second is better, and it takes longer, and it arrives in a way you can actually observe. The room stops testing you. This is the thing men do not anticipate, and it is genuinely strange to experience. Requests start arriving already finished. People bring you their conclusion, rather than their half-thought. The 3 waves stop being run, because surveys that always return the same result are not worth the cost of running. And the whole apparatus of low-grade management that has surrounded you for 20 years dismantles itself without a single conversation about it. I want to be accurate about the timeline on that one, because men give up too early. The hours come back in weeks. The room takes months, and there is a stretch in the middle where you have paid the cost of being less available and have not yet received anything for it. And that stretch is where almost everybody reverts. It is roughly the 6 to 10 week mark. Knowing it is coming is most of what gets a man through it. And the third is the one that has no name, and it is the reason the total is bigger than the sum. You get a direction back, not a plan and not a goal. The condition that makes a direction possible, which is a run of unclaimed weeks, and a head that is not carrying 4 open threads that belong to other people. That is what Diocletian actually bought with the abdication. Not rest, not retirement, ownership of his own hours, at a price he had personally calculated and considered fair. And you can buy a smaller version of the same thing without giving up anything at all. That is the difference between his situation and yours, and it is entirely in your favor. He had to hand over an empire to get it. You have to stop answering at 11:47 at night. Now the turn, and it is not where you have been looking for the last half hour. You have been listening to this as an accounting of the past. A bill for 20 years already spent, which is unpleasant but safe, because the past is finished and nothing can be done about it, and there is a particular comfort in being told about a loss you cannot act on. It is not an invoice, it is a quote. Every one of the 4 leaks is running today. It ran this morning. It will run tomorrow at about 11 o'clock. The number I have been adding up is not what you lost. It is what you are about to spend at exactly the current rate over the next 20 years. And that is the only version of the number that is still available to you. 4,000 hours already gone is a fact. 4,000 hours still to go is a decision. And it is being made right now, by default, by a man who has not decided anything. And there is a second half. And it is the hardest thing in this arc. You already knew all of it. Go back through 5 weeks of this. Not one thing in any of it was news to you. You have always known you answer too fast. You have known you over-explain. You have watched your own boundaries dissolve and been mildly embarrassed about it. And you did not need a video to tell you that you leak in the seconds before you react, because you have felt it happening from the inside for years. You did not lack information, you lacked a price, and you kept it unpriced deliberately, because as long as the cost stayed vague, it stayed free. A vague loss requires nothing of you. A vague loss is something you can feel bad about on a Sunday and then set down. The moment it has a number attached, it becomes a decision you are actively making, rather than a condition you are suffering. And that is a considerably more uncomfortable thing to own. The vagueness was the payment plan you have been paying for 20 years in installments, small enough not to notice, and the installment structure was not designed by anyone. You built it because it let you keep the whole thing off the books. That is over now. You cannot unsee an itemized bill, and that is the actual reason this episode has no technique in it. There was never anything to do. There was only something to look at. So here is the whole thing. And it is one sentence. Pick one leak and stop paying that one, not 1. The circuit runs in both directions, which means the one you pick will do part of the work on the other 3 while you sleep. The man who tries to fix all 4 in a week will be back to paying all 4 inside a month. He will conclude that he lacks discipline, and he will be wrong again. If you cannot choose, take the hours, because it is the lightest and it is the only one you can measure. Answer nothing tonight that can wait until 9 tomorrow. That is it. That is the entire instruction from a 5-episode arc. And in about 4 months, you will not be able to point to the day anything changed. Nobody will mention it. There will be no conversation. You will simply notice, at some point, that the room has stopped testing you, and that your evenings have got quieter, and that there is a thing you have been meaning to start for 6 years that has somehow become possible. 1 leak, not 6 lines, they close the arc. I stop paying, I own the hours, I am hard to read. I do not fund the loop. 1 leak, not 4, the quiet is the point. That last one is the name of the whole thing, and it is worth saying properly. This arc was never about becoming cold, or unreachable, or hard. It was about getting your own hours back, so that there is something left over to spend on your own direction. The quiet is not the goal. The quiet is what makes room for the goal. Put your line below with your leak number, and I read all of them. Now, the honest part. Most men are going to finish this video, feel the weight of it properly for about 2 days, and then answer something at 11:47 on Thursday night, exactly as they always have. Not because they disagreed, because seeing the bill and refusing to pay it are separate acts, and only one of them happened today. You are one of the pack, which means nothing, except that you stayed for the arithmetic, when a lot of men would rather know the number. Next Thursday, a new arc starts, and it moves outward. This one was about what leaves you. The next one is about the room you are not in, and the 7 decisions that get made about you while you are somewhere else. And the order information travels through a building which is not the order you have always assumed. There is a reason you find things out last, and it has almost nothing to do with rank. The room. Before the room Thursday, say it once more and mean it this time. I stop paying. The tap is still running.